reviewing Transformers Dark of the Moon. And as we review it, we're getting... Hey guys, it's Optimus Prime. We're back with another video, and we are on part 3 of our movie marathon as we review all of the Transformers movies up until Transformers The Last Night comes out on Tuesday, and we are on Transformers Dark of the Moon. I think I like this movie a little bit better than the first two. There are things about the first two that I had a lot of problems with that they seem to try to iron out with this one. This movie in particular, I liked how it dived into history.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I like the Cybertron history and the 1961, 1969, the moon landing and all of that before and after. It was really neat to see.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the first movie, it had Hoover Dam is what, diving into the history of Hoover Dam, why it was built was, in the second movie it was prehistory and why the pyramids were built. Mm-hmm. And now the third movie goes into the actual moon landing, and why the why we landed on the moon back in 1969. Yeah. Is because a Transformer ship crashed there, and they call the ship the Ark, which is the name of the original ship that brought the Autobots and Decepticons to Earth in the in G1, yeah. Either in the the comics or the cartoon, but here. It actually has, precious cargo. Mm-hmm. They actually do their own version of the moon landing, and then they actually go into the Transformer ship, and what looks like a robot Leonard Nimoy is in the ship. And we learn, of course, that Sentinel Prime, who was leader of the Autobots before Optimus Prime was. So then we actually cut to Sam, and he's now living in Washington, D.C., and he's no longer with Michaela. It turns out that Megan Fox had said a one-off remark about Michael Bay being a Nazi, and because of that, Steven Spielberg was like, "Nope, you're not in the movie anymore." And so they decided to bring in, a blonde girl. She's Carly. Which, if you watch the original series, the original series had Carly was Spike's wife. Actually bringing her in was kind of like a nice, bring back to the original series.
Although Carly wasn't British.
Yeah, no, she wasn't British in the original series, but she was really smart.
Yeah.
But this one is more of an encouragement, whereas Michaela was a little bit more needy. She wanted Spike, Sam to be loved, and but she was more of a mechanic, and so now Carly is more of a car expert, and she's just clearly a Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah.
Megan Fox is...
Well, it cuts from all the moon landing and all of the old history to her without pants.
Of course.
And as we know, Transformers, the movies, love pantsless shots. And this is just the first one.
Yeah. So, and the other thing we see is that there is a new character, Brains, who is the one little guy who turns into a laptop, and then Wheelie is back from the other movie, and
he's got
his eye back. So what we also see is the first Star Trek reference in the film is that they're sitting back watching Spock in the episode where he goes nuts. If you've seen the movie already, you kind of get the idea that
yeah, what's going
coming
to come.
Yeah. But then they actually switch over to the Autobots themselves, and they're still doing missions for Nest. And they introduce two new characters. They introduce Q, who is supposed to be Wheeljack, and he looks like Einstein. And then you have Dino, who is a red car, and he looks awesome. I thought he was really cool. It was finally they bring a red Transformer into the movie franchise, and he looks awesome in red. They should have had more red Transformers, in the movie franchise from the beginning, but they didn't. And
maybe because of Optimus, I don't know.
Well, Optimus they even decided to have flames on him, which he didn't have in the original series.
Yeah.
The other thing they make mention of is that how Sam met Carly is that they go back to 4 years ago, which was Revenge of the Fallen, in that he gets a medal from the president because he saved the world. And at the same time, I don't know when the dumping took place. When did Michaela and Sam break up? I mean, they were kind of not together, but the movie doesn't really make it clear, and it kind of you almost feel like it's like a missing thread, because
it's not
she
really
was
that necessary to know, as long as you just know they weren't together anymore, and then he went and started dating Carly after, or they could have met, then broke up, and then the two got back together and started dating. I mean, they don't really say one way or the other. I just don't think it's all that necessary. As long as he didn't cheat on her. But they do say that, oh, she was a mean lady, I didn't like her. So, Wheelie got his eye poked out by her, so I wouldn't like her either if she poked my eye out.
But he was humping her leg in the last movie.
But he was annoying.
He was annoying. He still is annoying in this movie.
Yeah. He's a little bit better.
One of the cool things that actually they bring into this movie is Optimus Prime's trailer, and he drives in, cool. And it's it has the G1 design, it has everything that would be the G1 trailer, and it's his arsenal. So it transforms basically into a working all of his guns that he would need. Are inside the trailer itself, which is interesting to note because all of the previous guns in the movie, and still a lot of the Transformers themselves, their arm transforms into a gun, whereas in the original series they used the subspace storage pocket to pull a gun out of what other cartoons would call hammer space, and it's an interesting way to do it, to actually have handheld guns again. And I prefer it because they can use different firearms for different purposes.
Yeah, he was messy though. I don't know how he kept all of the guns and things he needed, because every time he was done with it, he just dropped it. He never picked it up and put it back. Optimus Prime is messy. No, just kidding.
Well, they go to Chernobyl, and they find this space part. And while they're there, you see Laserbeak, is kind of hiding in the background.
Bat in the first scene you see him, though, to me at least.
He's a condor, so it's kind of like this
but they
nasty,
had him almost
dirty
upside
bird.
down, looking like a bat. I thought he was a bat at first.
He's a spy, so that's what Laserbeak does. And then the driller bot comes in,
really creepy.
Really, really creepy. Kind of looks like the Dweller from Dweller in the Depths in G1. And then you have Shockwave is introduced as well, and he's kind of riding the driller bot. And that driller bot is nasty looking.
Yeah, he is. He's just a giant worm.
I mean, it was kind of one of those things where I was is this really necessary? Do they have to have non-Decepticons there? But then again, if you saw my last review with Revenge of the Fallen, you saw my complaints about Decepticons and all the Transformers movies. But Shockwave himself, it's he seems impressive.
Yeah.
But he's not really there much in the film. Even in the end, towards the end of the movie, he's not really there. But the Autobots go back to base, and they meet this this new, national security advisor or whatever in it. She's
like her. She's a jerk.
Yeah, she is.
She's nasty to Sam and Carly. She's nasty to all the bots. She's nasty to Lennox. Who do you think you are, woman?
Well, she goes, wondering what the heck is going on with why Optimus is so upset, and it turns out that they find the actual ship itself. They have
Cybertron tech.
Right. And so there are the new Autobots. Actually, we find out that they came to Earth, from the second to the third movie, in a ship, and they use that ship to go to the moon, and they actually see the actual landing site of where the astronauts landed, and they go to the ship, find Sentinel Prime, bring him back to Earth, and he's voiced by Leonard Nimoy. And what's also pretty cool is that Buzz Aldrin actually makes an appearance.
Yeah.
That was really neat
That too.
You know, it was a nice nod to the original astronauts that landed on the moon. But the Sentinel Prime talks about that the technology that he was building on the Ark is a space bridge. And of course, what do we know about space bridges is that that's kind of like another thing from G1, is like how did they get from Cybertron to Earth? So, you know, Sam, on the other hand, he goes back and gets a job, you know, tries to get a job, and he ends up working for John Malkovich, who is absolutely,
Makes no
like,
sense.
he is crazy.
And unnecessary.
You know, impress me. I mean, that the greatest thing about that like line is that like you can pretty much make a bunch of memes out of that. Like, impress me.
And then Jerry Wang, the guy who was involved with NASA,
Yep.
that Laserbeak is trying to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And so Laserbeak shows up, but this guy, Jerry Wang, the guy is insane.
Yeah. He is nuts.
And then
He's nuts.
Bruce
Like,
and Jerry Wang have a stare off for no reason at all. Just it's like they want to make parts of the movie just feel incredibly awkward.
yeah, you know what? That's like my biggest complaints with all of the movies. Like, there are way too many like confrontations with people that seem like they're not, like, they're awkward. Not like that they're trying to be more than they are, but like literal awkward
They're
moments.
unnecessary, and yeah, they're trying. It's not like, oh well, this character's awkward. It's just they're trying to make something awkward that doesn't need to be. They could have had a funny. I don't know. I just didn't think it was funny or necessary.
Well, and the other thing, he has to drink his Shahua milk. So
His what milk?
his Shahua milk, I think it's called. When he drinks it, the reason why is because by putting product placement for China, the movie can actually open up in China and be big in the box office.
I didn't catch that.
Well, that's because like the biggest thing now is that they have to have Asian actors now in movies. It's not a bad thing that Asian actors are in movies,
not, yeah.
but China is now like the biggest market.
Right.
So
yeah, that makes
movies
sense.
now have to have Chinese like product placement. They have to have things happen in China. Like, you know, in Revenge of the Fallen, the attack was in Shanghai. You know, and here there's product placement for stuff. You know, and then of course with the fourth one, that like the final battle is in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So like all those things like actually like link together. Because you know, China is now a bigger market to Hollywood than the U.S. You know, they're like the domestic totals, like they're going down, but China is big, so who cares? You know, and that's why like the movies make so much money.
Interesting. Now you know. I didn't know.
The other thing that like the whole like working at the office thing is like.
Very strange.
Well, you know what though?
There's the yellow level.
There
the
are
red
corporate
level.
places that are like that though. There are like I've worked in the corporate world, so the couple different companies I've worked for have not necessarily. I don't know about the color coding thing. Like that's
I think
weird.
that was a little bit funny. Like it was a visual, therefore a visceral
betrayal.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. There were parts where John Malkovich was kind of funny, but it was otherwise just kind of unnecessary.
No, I liked the trying to find a job thing. You know, he was in high school in the first movie. He went into college in the second one, and now he's graduated college, and now he's trying to find a job. Which kind of like, you know, when you're growing up, like you go to school, you come out and you think you're going to be able to make something of yourself, and that you can mean something, but you try to find a job and you can't, because like at the time, like the movie came out was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, and the economy was still in the toilet. So no matter what you tried to do about trying to find another job, like there's nothing out there. You know, you go to job after job interview after job interview after job interview, and you can't find nothing.
Angry much?
Well, of course I am. You know, I came out of college and I had a graphics degree, and got told that. Well, it is because the movie, like it spoke to me on a level like I could relate. You know, coming out of college and not being able to find work in the field. You know, granted, he's just trying to find work, period. So he ends up getting work in a mailroom. But I was trying to find work myself, and it's kind of like the same thing. So I kind of feel like that same, like that same anger, so to speak, trying to find trying to find a job, and
trying to find a place to mean something.
Yeah, and here you end up working for an employer that you're like, this guy is nuts.
Yeah, I did like how Sam was like, I saved your life twice. I can't tell you how or where or when, but I meant something, and I want to find a place where I can mean something again. And he tells him, you will. This is the job before that job. You need to work this, and you will get there. You remind me of me. So it was like, he had that opportunity. He just had to prove himself.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of where you have to start out sometimes. Like Carly even said, you have to pay your dues.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, she got right in, but that we'll go over later.
So we end up finding out that she works for, Dylan Storm, and he's just a jerk. Like, first of all, he everything he does is to make, like, it almost feels like he's hitting on
Carly.
Yeah.
And she's clearly in love with Sam.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care. He seems to think he can still win her over, which, I mean, he's a lot less creepy than Sam, or less annoying, I should say. He's creepy. Sam's annoying.
Well, I thought it was also funny that Sam was driving a jalopy wannabe Bumblebee car.
Yeah.
And it was a beater, and it was falling apart, and so he was only driving it because it wasn't Bumblebee. And
but it looked like Bumblebee, yeah.
Yeah, even had like the
same windshield.
I mean the other thing hanging from the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And it's falling apart. It can't start. He has to kick it. And then her boss gives her a car. Oh, well, now you have a Mercedes. It's a $200,000 car. Well, that turns out to be Soundwave. And we didn't talk about Soundwave in the last movie. He was a satellite, and he took over the satellite, and he deployed Ravage, so he actually ejected something, which was cool. And in this movie, he actually has Laserbeak. Mm-hmm. And Megatron shows up, and their hideout is now in Africa. And Megatron is this old beater truck.
A hobo.
And he looks like a hobo. And, he puts over the thing over his face because half his face is still getting rebuilt.
By, like, little bot.
Yeah, like little drone things. And, Soundwave turns into the Mercedes, and he has Laserbeak on as a perch. And, their whole ultimate plan is to revive Sentinel Prime.
Yeah, so only Sentinel can revive the pillars that they've stolen to get the space bridge to bring Cybertron to Earth.
Which, this movie, there are a lot of plot points that
take from the
G1 cartoon. First of all, you have Megatron's master plan. Let's kick the Autobots off the planet. It has a nice little reference to Atlantis Arise. Megatron comes into Washington, D.C., blasts off the Lincoln Memorial, and actually sits on it as a throne.
Yeah.
There is the Ultimate Doom, which is bringing Cybertron into Earth's orbit. So literally, it's like 3 different references to episodes from the G1 cartoon, all in one movie, and that's one of the main reasons why I think I enjoyed this movie a lot more, because it seemed to draw all these different plot points and kind of like bring them together.
It didn't take them that long to get from Africa to
Washington, D.C. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Another G1 thing is that
it took like 2 hours we only have 2 hours to get to Africa. Well, they did it.
They did it in less than 2 hours, and that was changing gears. Yeah, that was changing gears. They got to Africa, from Africa or from America to Africa in less than 2 hours.
That's a joke we make a lot around here.
So, turns out Sentinel Prime actually is a traitor. He now isn't. He actually made a deal with Megatron before he crash landed on the moon.
And
he kills Ironhide.
I can't take all the killing in this one.
Poor Ironhide. And they first of all they introduced Simmons in Dutch, And Dutch is awesome.
I love Dutch. He's so funny.
You know,
I'm sorry, that's my old life. I was like, what were you?
I would have liked to see more of Dutch. Like, he is a character.
Too. He was really funny. He was like my favorite character in this movie. Everyone else was awkward. He was just funny.
I like John Turturro coming back though. Like the two of them, like working together.
Really well off each other. Yeah.
You know, I'd like to see more of them. If they both come back, maybe for the fifth one, that would be really awesome.
That would be funny.
Yeah. So they have this whole awesome chase sequence with the Berserker Decepticons. You know, and that was really cool. But they used if some people don't know this, they actually used scenes from the island. Because they lost footage because Bumblebee, the actual Bumblebee car, one of them got destroyed in a car accident. And because the car accident destroyed that one Bumblebee car, they had to use sequences from another movie, which they used a chase sequence from the island. And they
I forgot about that.
They put in the Autobots and Decepticons battling on that highway. And what was something that has now become, you know, standard. I guess like the third and the fourth movie both do it. Is that Bumblebee flips up, jumps up in midair. Sam is in midair. He transforms, grabs him, flips over, transforms back, lands. That's something that is like, you know,
did it twice in this movie though, because he also caught Lennox and Sam later.
Yeah. They did like a whole.
But
well, that was still
cool
different
to see over and over again. It's
yeah.
like. That's just really cool.
Yeah, it was actually a really cool sequence, you know, overall. And you know, Simmons, we find out that he had a relationship with the National Security Director,
Charlotte Meering, in Quantico.
And so once the Decepticons actually like make their whole plan work, and it literally happens like an hour and a half in, because it's a 2.5 hour movie. Like an hour and a half in, they're in Chicago, and it's literally a 1 hour climax. It is like the longest end.
It goes on forever
of the movie, like to get to Chicago, actually do it, because like the first hour and a half is like set up. I don't even know why
they're walking through anymore after half the time.
Yeah,
like,
and Chicago gets wrecked. I mean, people are getting killed left and right. I mean, it's the disaster zone.
Oh yeah. Well, the ships come in because Sentinel Prime, once he gets the pillar set up, he gets all of the new Decepticons off the moon, and then.
Speaking of the ships, didn't they look like the ships? I thought looked like
Avengers.
The same creep, the Chitauri ships in Avengers. That's what they look like. Yeah, that's what I thought. And I'm sitting there like why don't they look like, you know, more Cybertronian? I guess they decided to make it look, you know, different.
They just looked weird.
Yeah, with everything hanging off, and
I don't know why everything had to have tendrils and like. It made.
I also think that, and we didn't really talk about this in our other two reviews, is that the military really looked good in all three movies, and this one even more. Like, I like Lennox, and I like Tyrese's character, Epps,
and Eddie.
In this one we liked Eddie, but that whole the whole end battle is just awesome. They introduced the Wreckers, which are Roadbuster, Leadfoot, and Topspin, I believe is the name of them, and they turn into, you know, race cars, but with machine guns,
they're Irish,
and and they had cool, like you said, they had cool accents.
It was cool to see the wingsuits and them going through a toppling over building, which they then just jump out a window and then shoot through the floor, like windows of another floor, so they can get in there because they're trying to run from a Decepticon. They had a lot of really cool sequences of action for humans and Autobots and Decepticons.
Yeah.
And
I didn't like them killing off Q.
No, that was sad.
You know, but I guess Soundwave got his, you know, just desserts, and Shockwave's weakness is parachutes. Apparently, you know, because once they put parachutes over his face, he can easily kill him. You know,
it was just too easy to kill bots in general, in my opinion. I mean, they're made of they are made of metal, not from this earth. It should not be so easy just for them to just explode and they just fall apart so easily.
Yeah, well, I think that they kind of you know, said like in the first movie that once they started using firearms that actually had the ability to melt melt their armor. It was like, I think it was probably easier to kill them at that point. But still, it's kind of like the humans shouldn't be so easy for humans to kill Transformers. It should be easier for the Autobots and Decepticons to be able to battle each other. Optimus, has his wingsuit that like he got basically from his trailer, which is like part of his I guess was part of his arsenal. And him flying around, he's actually able to take out the driller bot. He's able to take out the Shockwave, and blast out most of the Decepticons. And that final battle between Optimus and Sentinel Prime, that was really, really, really cool. Like, that was like a, one-on-one battle. They're bickering at each other. Even Megatron, when he finally comes in. Now, Megatron is probably my least favorite part of the whole movie, because I felt Megatron, like, in the first two movies, he was a credible threat. But in this movie, I felt like Megatron was, like, second fiddle. I mean, granted, like, we complained about him. We complained about him being subservient to the Fallen, and now he's like,
he wants to prove that he's not subservient and under. I liked Carly's reverse psychology on Megatron, because that seemed like a very Megatron thing, where like he can't be, even though he was subservient to the Fallen, he really can't have anyone over him. So for him to realize, well, Sentinel Prime is really going to be top dog once everything's said and done and you guys win, he couldn't have that. So he had to go and fight too.
Yeah, because Sentinel Prime was actually commanding the Decepticons to do things.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like Sentinel Prime was leader of the Decepticons, but then it was Optimus was, fighting him, and then Megatron came in, and it was a three-way fight.
Yeah.
And, of course, Optimus kills Megatron once and for all, puts an axe through his face, once again taking his face off.
Your face off.
And, literally doing a Sub-Zero fatality by, removing his head and his spine. And then, kills off, Sentinel Prime. And there was more than one Star Trek reference. In this movie, not just like the when Spock goes nuts, but like Leonard Nimoy actually says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Yeah. And Bumblebee, when he's about to get on the ship, he actually says, he uses the radio broadcast of Spock actually saying, "I'll always be your friend," which is from Star Trek 2.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of neat Star Trek references in this movie. So overall, I mean, I enjoyed this movie a lot more than the first two. I think that it draws a lot of different things from G1 in a lot of ways, a lot of cool ways. I think there are a lot of things that annoyed me, like Shockwave being underused, the humans finding it too easy to kill Transformers, and the whole climax of the film takes almost way too long. Like if they were able to cut like 15-20 minutes off the movie to make it a little bit shorter, I think it would have been a little bit more, you can sit down and watch it and not feel like the movie dragged on.
Yeah,
I think that was
at the end they go to Megatron, like everybody's fighting, and then Sam and Storm are fighting. Then they go back to the Decepticon Autobot fighting. Then Sam and Storm. And it's like back and forth, like show the fight, show the next fight, done. Don't have to go back 5 times. It's just ridiculous.
So overall, what do you think of the film? So really, I mean, besides the fact that of its length and all that kind of fun stuff,
I mean, I thought it definitely was better. I liked the gravity of it. It felt more realistic. It was just more interesting. It had just a better feel to it. It did have some of the stuff that I didn't like, the jokes, the language, but overall, I think it was just a much better, not only made, it was a much better made movie, and a much better just movie overall between the first and the second one. It wasn't so much of a joke. It really had a lot more gravity to it. I liked it much better than the first two, overall.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the sequel that the second one should have been. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed our little movie review. Again, of course, we're going through all the different Transformers movies. We're going to do the fourth one next, and then, of course, we're moving on to Transformers: The Last Night. which comes out on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. If you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. Check out all of our other videos as well. And be sure, if you're already subscribed, also be sure to hit that little bell to make sure that you get notified when the next videos come out. And obviously stay tuned for more. And as always, guys, until next time.